Good evening. Welcome to Have I Got News for You. I'm Damien Lewis. In the news this week, there's disappointment as one member of the Chipping Norton Amateur Dramatic Society realises he's only been given one line in this year's panto. Heading home after a long night, two passengers put on a brave face when they have to take the rail replacement bus service. Liverpool Council deny wasting money on a new initiative to check occupancy levels in high-rise flats. And at a hotel on location, after his producer's husband turns up unexpectedly, Andrew Marr decides to go back to his own room. With Ian tonight is the leader of UKIP, who was once the subject of a BBC documentary, which in the end they decided not to show. Only in that instance, it wasn't because they'd made a Christmas special celebrating him as a national treasure. Please welcome Nigel Farage, MEP. And with Paul is a star of cult movie This Is Spinal Tap and The Simpsons. He does the voice of evil tycoon Mr. Burns, which many people assume is based on Rupert Murdoch. He also voices the character of Smithers, yellow, fawning, but ultimately powerless, presumably based on Nick Clegg. Please welcome Harry Shearer. And let's get started with the bigger stories of the week. Paul and Harry, you take a look at this.
This is the Muppets protesting the fact that Romney threatened to cancel the funding for Big Bird. That was.
And there's a man in decision there. I'm going to go. No, I'll go.
Where's the loop?
Indoor fireworks. Yes, Barack Obama has
Chicago was going to have the Olympics. They had confetti left over.
And these are people too young to be that disappointed.
And still, I don't know where to vote.
Yeah. So yes, this is the American election. Barack Obama was won convincingly.
Did he stay out?
No, but I wasn't voting, or indeed run him. So I knew I'd find out in the morning.
What's Radio 4 for?
Radio 4-4, there are two of them. Radio 4-4.
Yeah, it was. I was really grateful that I was.
Is that Radio 2 too? Sorry, Harry.
Radio 1 makes 11. I was grateful to be in this time
Look,
zone.
it goes to 11.
Oh yeah, there you go. Knew it was going to.
Got it early. Oh, so happy I've got that in.
They should have had a digest, shouldn't they? I watched it, and it's just lots of people saying, too close to call, neck and neck, oh, he's won easily.
Yeah.
Did I see you on ITV?
ITV?
Yeah, I made a brief appearance.
Saucy little monkey.
Was it a good night?
Yeah, it was a terrific night. I went to the American Embassy. I came in and a woman said, are you Democrat or Republican? And I said, well, I don't get a vote. And she gave me a Republican badge and said, there's a lot of these. And I thought, I think I know which way this one's going.
Isn't the story here that 93% of black voters voted for Obama, over 70% of the Hispanic voters voted for Obama, and actually the Republicans have had it, haven't they, in America?
That was what one of the Republicans said afterwards. Said, what's the problem here? And he said, we're not generating enough angry white guys. Right, we've got to start producing more of them.
Well, with 23 million people unemployed, you'd think there'd be enough angry white guys now, but...
You said voters. Are you Farage? Nigel Farage?
What would you park your car in?
Are you accusing him of having a dodgy American accent?
Yes, there does seem to have been a bit of an election in the US this week. That's absolutely right, gents. To try and boost their campaign, Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, of course, had one last-minute push in Ohio. Anyone know what they christened this effort of theirs?
Titanic?
The blip, the disaster, the good thing.
The Blitz.
They called it the Romney-Ryan Real Recovery Road Rally. Bit inconsiderate towards Japanese Americans. Our Prime Minister, he tweeted away like crazy. Anyone know what he tweeted?
They'd been to a baseball match together, hadn't they?
He's now on Obama's side, isn't he? The Tory party now support the left-wing party, is that right?
But they're only left by no one's terms, aren't they?
Obama's domestic policy is severely to the right of Richard Nixon's.
The Americans have a Conservative Party and a very Conservative party. And then they have a Tea Party, which you just don't want to know.
So our Prime Minister tweeted, warm congratulations to my friend at Barack Obama. Look forward to continuing to work together. Well, now he's not allowed to text Rebecca Brooks anymore. As always, during the campaign, there were accusations of negative campaigning, of course, slurring, attempts at media manipulation. Anyone see any examples of that?
Well, I think that there was a landmark moment where, in the early part of the campaign, that is to say in 1978, when Obama's supporters were criticizing him for not saying that Romney lied.
There
But
was,
they spent £2.5 billion.
Yes, dollars.
Yeah, dollars. And this was, in the final bit, the adverts were about who would waste most money in America.
That's right. By the way, an 18-month election cycle, you could gestate an entire elephant in that time.
There was this widely distributed image.
How do you get the dog to stay on his face like that?
There was some technical issues with voting machines. Did anyone see that story?
Yes, there was a voting machine where a person kept pressing the button for Obama and the machine kept registering Romney.
That's absolutely right.
It's magic.
And he still lost.
Yeah. These things are harder to fix than you think.
That's an appalling accusation.
Top US political expert, Piers Morgan, was on hand with his customary insightful analysis on the day of the election. What bombshells did he come up with?
Did he predict a Clinton win?
He revealed, I haven't a clue who's going to win the US election, and nor has anyone else. Thanks for that, Piers. Of course, it's quite important during the campaign to keep control of your image.
Yes.
Obama seems to have had the edge there too over Mr. Romney. Here's one that was released of him. And here's one that emerged of Mitt Romney.
That's not a photograph you want to be posed in.
If you want normal people to resonate with you, have a helicopter behind you, not a jet.
Yeah, exactly.
He told the story of having a house being built for him on the coast in California that had a car lift. He told that to, identify with normal people.
Anyone know about the eyebrow index?
Yeah, the longer or shorter or thicker or slightly less dense eyebrow, the more or less chance you've got of winning or losing in an election.
7 of the last 8 elections have been won by the candidate with the best groomed eyebrows. Anyway, the advice was that Romney should go pluck himself. Mitt Romney became famous for his gaffes during the campaign.
Oh, right, yes.
Anyone remember any of
I
Romney's
like
gaffes?
firing people was one that he said a few months back.
He actually said, I like to be able to fire people.
I like to be able to fire people.
Yes.
There was a particularly surreal one, which he said back in January.
Yeah.
I believe in an America where millions of Americans believe in an America that's the America millions of Americans believe in. That's the America I love. Although that was probably just an auto-cue error, to be fair. Auto-cue error, to just be fair, probably.
The day before the election, he was heard to say to one of his final rallies, tomorrow is the beginning of a better tomorrow.
There was also the awkward one at the fundraiser, and he didn't realise he was being recorded. But there are 47% of the people who will vote for the president, no matter what. 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims. My job is not to worry about those people. Nigel, bit far or pretty standard right-wing nutjob stuff? Romney admitted having strapped his dog to the top of the car for a 12-hour drive from Boston to Ontario. Nigel, bit far or pretty standard right-wing nutjob stuff? And then his wife's plane was forced to land after smoke was detected, and he told the press, when you have a fire in an aircraft, there's no place to go, and you can't find any oxygen from outside the aircraft because the windows don't open. I don't know why they don't do that. It's a real problem.
Oh, dear.
Nigel, anything to...
No, I'm sorry.
No,
I mean,
nothing.
even UKIP on a bad day can't compete with Romney.
No, quite. Big news this week is the election of the Coptic Pope after the last Pope Coptic. It's my favourite joke of the evening, I tell you. Let's have a look at how you choose a new Coptic Pope.
Yeah.
Bishop Tawdrous, who was 60, qualified as a pharmacist, and Father Raphael Afaramia. There we are, he's picking out one of them. The boy put his hand on and picked it. Let's just hear whether we can pick up the name that's announced as the new leader of the Coptic Church in Egypt. Let's have a listen. Well, what we have is the name being shown, and I'm afraid my Arabic is not up to telling you what that is, but I'm sure we will know very shortly.
Well played, Blackburn Rovers.
Yes, it's the US election. The result was in the balance until the last minute. Mind you, if Americans think that election was exciting, just wait till Britain elects its regional police commissioners. Explaining the complexities of the electoral college system to its readers, the Mirror described it as the race to 270 votes, a figure that UKIP can only dream of. You know, Nigel? Romney supporter who took defeat badly was Donald Trump, who tweeted, "We can't let this happen. We should march on Washington and stop this travesty." All right, Donald, keep your hair on.
Somebody gave birth at the same time.
Ian and Nigel, will you take a look at this?
Ah, the lady of the moment.
Nadine Dorris, that's
Oz. Yeah.
Dennis McShane in a helmet,
Yeah,
and
these
some
are-
elderly computers.
The last time I was on this programme, Ian, in fact, you had a very serious dig at me because I'd been accused.
Surely not.
No, honestly, I was very surprised about it.
I needed counselling.
I can't remember anything about it. Was it £2 million of expenses?
Apparently, the guy that accused me of misusing £2 million of taxpayers' money was none other than Dennis
McShane.
Scumbag McShane, who, whilst he was accusing me of this, in fact, used taxpayers' money and, in fact, over the course of 18 months, bought 8 laptops and gave them to assistants and interns as gifts, but worse than that, took £125,000 of taxpayers' money as rent for his garage, which he said was his office, and then set up an organisation called the European Policy Institute, claimed expenses on that, and was actually signing fraudulent cheques. So I feel pretty embittered.
Although, Nigel, you did have a meeting with Andrew Neil recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
After you said in
We haven't
2009...
finished this yet. I'm still enjoying the
You'd
expenses.
start publishing your expenses quarterly, but you still don't.
Well, we're doing them 6 monthly instead.
Let's have a quick look at this.
There's no information about your expenses since December 2011. That's nearly a year.
Yeah. In fact, we're doing it every 6 months, not quarterly. That seemed a more practical way to do it. And you're
you
quite
haven't done
right.
it this year at all.
I haven't done it this year at all because I simply haven't had time to do it. There's a big difference here. There's a very big difference here. These are not expenses that I'm claiming for. These are allowances that I'm given because that's the European system, and voluntarily what I do is publish this stuff online, which I've done once every 6 months since 2009. No
Okay,
story.
that was...
Sorry.
Can we get back to the other
Sorry,
guy?
no story. No story.
Oh, I'm sure there is a story, but we mustn't... we mustn't let off the other guy. There's no point going back into history. Let's get back to him. Because
He
not
deserves
only
it.
did McShane falsify invoices, not only did he claim expenses that he had no right to, not only did he sign bits of paper, but he's furiously pro-European.
Well, that is even more serious, isn't it? Well, I think...
Which I would suggest is probably, what, 2 years? 3 years?
Well, minimum.
I cannot understand why no one spotted it, because he set up this policy institute, signed the cheques himself, under the name of Mr. Michael Mouse.
Really?
No, I made that bit up. Anyway, he might go to jail, do you think?
He will.
You think he definitely will?
Absolutely, no question. He's got to go to jail. MPs have gone to jail for far less than he's done, and he deserves it.
Right.
Scumbag.
If he does go down, he might want to dress a little bit differently. That's him putting an expense claim in for the imaginary pair of trousers he's wearing. He's had to resign after submitting false invoices. According to The Sun, he claimed for 14 computers in 3 years. And still Comet went bust. What are your feelings about Nadine Dorries?
There were some pictures of her today, weren't there? Topless. Did you see them?
Topless?
Yeah. Topless.
Really? What, with no head?
Well, there's a big debate going on. Is Nadine going to defect to UKIP? And I thought...
That is the big debate. Is she going to go? I don't know. Please, tell us.
She was on this team with you, wasn't she?
She was here. A lot of people think she's slightly unhinged and that going to be on a reality show when you're meant to be in Parliament is a bad move. But if you think that would be a good member of your party, go for it.
I didn't say it would.
She's gone off to be on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And Parliament's actually sitting. I mean, there are loads of votes. She's not going to help her constituents. A lot of people in Parliament are quite cross.
Does she still get her salary while she's away on the reality
Yes,
show?
she does.
She does.
Yes, she does.
Recently, she said, if 16 million people are watching I'm a Celebrity, that is where MPs should be going. I'll tell you what, Nadine, millions of people watched the bloke leap out of a balloon from the edge of space, if you're interested.
She did tell people that she's going to do this in order to raise important issues. Do you think she's ever seen the programme?
Eric Pickles had something to say about it. Have a look at this.
Well, I should be watching it for the first time for a long time, and as I say, I should be reading it religiously every week to keep it there.
Conservative whips responded by suspending her until she explains her actions. News that Heat magazine felt it necessary to impart to their readers, adding, whips doesn't mean sexy whips. They're the people who get everyone to turn up to vote and tell them off when they're naughty, said their chief political correspondent. She's famous for calling David Cameron and George Osborne arrogant posh boys. Though once the Bush Tucker trials start with those bits of kangaroo, she'll be the one with a plum in her mouth.
And the public are very vindictive, aren't they? They just vote for whoever they hate most to do the most unpleasant thing, time after time until they crack.
Nigel, have you been asked?
No, I haven't. No, I won't be going.
I'd like to be invited to the American Embassy at some point.
There was burgers, chips, free beer. It was worth it.
We scanned and...
Scanned. Yeah, I had to give my mother's maiden name.
Were you probed?
Probed?
Probed.
Of course, why do you think I went?
Okay.
Meanwhile, who else has misunderstood the nature of their job at Westminster in the last couple of weeks?
Nick Clegg?
Been more than the last few weeks, hasn't it?
Ken Clark.
Thank you. He said he doesn't know what his new government job is, describing his role of Minister without portfolio as being particularly mysterious and baffling. Or as you would say, Nigel...
Baffling.
So who's E.J. Matthews, and what's he got to do with all of this?
He doesn't actually exist, does he?
No.
Or is he the Turkey Man?
No, it's Bernard Matthews.
Oh, I got that wrong.
And he doesn't exist either. He no longer exists either.
That's right, he doesn't exist, but Dennis McShane pretended he did, allegedly.
Did he used to have phone calls with him and to pretend he was talking to him in front of other people?
He said, would you like to sign off these expenses? And he'd go, yes, Dennis, I will.
Dennis said the fabrication was for ease of administration. I'd call it fiddling, but Nigel would call it
Baffling.
time has come, Nigel. We're moving on from this story in a roundabout sort of way. Time to talk about the EU budget.
So Britain pays into the European Union £53 million a day, but that, according to the Commission and the European Parliament, isn't enough, and it's got to be up substantially. But the House of Commons voted for it to be reduced.
Which way did your lot vote?
Oh, well, our lot aren't really there, are they? You know, we've got...
I knew that.
Eurosceptics
I just
and,
asked.
Well, our lot would have voted for the amount that goes to Brussels to be zero every day.
Well, may I suggest that your position be that you owe them, Britain owe the money to the EU, but just not get around to paying it?
Excellent.
We could do that, but
Through
it's
not having enough time.
not a very... No, I took the money back. No.
Why else is he in a bit of bother? Mr. Cameron, our leader.
Rebecca Brooks.
Texting.
We had a couple of texts have been released, and there are others, but they're not relevant.
Yeah, but those two weren't relevant last time either. They're going to come out slowly. It's like a big, long soap opera, which is great.
Was it about fast, exciting rides or something? Was that right?
It was, and a lot of tabloid papers thought that was a reference to sex. But it was horses.
It was sex with horses. But
Yes. In stark contrast to the glitzy showbiz razzmatazz of US politics, one of Britain's leading political figures, Nadine Dorries, is going on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Nadine Dorries justified her decision to appear, saying, the important thing is 16 million people watch the show. Quite. Why do you think I'm doing this show? Sorry. Is that all? Not including the repeat. Embarrassing. Nadine Dorries' appearance on I'm a Celebrity will be the complete opposite of her experience as an MP. When she's in the jungle, it'll be stupid people voting her out. After the Tory party suspended Nadine, known to the tabloids as Mad Nad, The Sun reported Ms Dorries may join UKIP. Oh, come on, she may be mad, but she's not insane. When told of Nadine Dorries' TV plans, Paul Duckett, chairman of her mid-Bedfordshire constituency, declared, I can think of better ways of spending my time than sitting in a swamp with a bucket of maggots on my head. Maybe, but being constituency chairman of the Mid-Bedfordshire Conservative Association probably isn't one of them. So at the end of that round, dear God, we made it 2 points each. And so to round two, the strengthometer of news.
Yeah.
Here's the first one.
Yeah.
UKIP's now going to start campaigning across the whole of Europe, and that's what that flag means.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Who do you think you're kidding, Mr. Farrar?
Yeah, well, there you are.
This is the news that Britain has invaded 90% of the world's nations, says author Stuart Laycock, who's written a book claiming that Britain has invaded 171 out of a possible 193 countries. Why is this statistic a little questionable?
It was made up.
Because Laycock has allowed for it to include anywhere the British achieved a military presence.
Ah.
Through force, negotiation or payment, as well as incursions by any pirates operating with the approval of their government. There are a few countries unlucky enough never to have enjoyed a British invasion. Sweden,
Sweden, well,
Not worth it.
the Marshall Islands. I don't know where they are.
Well, that's why they've never been invaded.
As if they're in the south.
Nigel, UKIP for or against invading other countries on the whole? If you had to, though.
Yeah, we
Who'd
had
be,
to.
who'd be
invade.
top of your list?
It's got to be Belgium. It's pretty much a non-country, and we might do it a favour.
In,
Give it a third
Always,
language.
yeah, whenever I say that, I get fined. I get into terrible trouble. I can't think why.
It's all right, this is just a co-production with a Belgian company. In other news, when the Nazis were trying to invade us...
Just meaning in other news.
Yeah.
The Nazis... when did this happen? Last week? Those bastards never give up, do they?
Yes, in another article of interest.
Oh,
So
right, yes,
let's say
yes,
that.
yeah.
Meanwhile-
Who managed to get themselves stuck in a chimney when the Nazis were attacking us back when?
It was a pigeon, wasn't it? Wasn't there one of these pigeons coming back carrying a message,
Yeah.
and a house had been demolished, and they found round the leg a message?
That's a very good answer. Carrier pigeon on its way to Bletchley Park,
Bletchley.
no less, whose remains were recently
And
fished
some-
out by a bloke when he was restoring his fireplace. Yeah, let's have a look at what he found.
What did the message say?
Here it is. Here's the pigeon's
Oh, I
note.
see.
Wait, that pigeon is good writing.
The birds would be dropped into Nazi-occupied Europe using mini parachutes. Odd, considering they have wings.
Yeah.
Parachute would just slow the pigeon down. It would start flying, and it's got this little wind chute behind it that's slowing it down. They couldn't have thrown them out of planes with wearing parachutes. They couldn't have done that. It's impossible.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right into the show.
Okay. In your dealings, have you ever found anyone who's responsible for
You
anything?
can write in right now.
Dear points of view, you must think we're all idiots. Yours sincerely, the British public.
The author estimates that Britain has invaded 171 countries, only 3 less than Prince Philip has insulted. The book claims that we even invaded Vietnam in the 1600s, so the Americans were late joining that one as well. Right, fingers on buzzers, please,
Yeah.
teams.
Judging by the sort of speech bubble there, is it something to do with sort of Midlands accents are harder to understand than any other accent?
And there's a particular irony to this answer.
It's hard to understand your accent.
Do you think so?
No, I'm just saying that would be the irony.
Oh, I see, yes, indeed, absolutely.
You two are a brilliant team. This is teamwork. It's teamwork.
I don't understand what I'm saying.
This is the news that an £11 million phone service
Yeah.
at Birmingham City Council is sending callers mad because it can't understand Brummie accents. According to The Sun, it demands an account reference number, yet cannot cope with numbers such as 5. Seven.
They don't all make that face when they're talking.
And 9. Apparently, users have tried for up to half an hour just to get past the first question. And a boy. What does the machine do when it doesn't understand?
It electrocutes the applicant.
It apparently continuously says, "Can you please repeat?" And according to the Telegraph, it remains baffling. Who's been particularly unimpressed by all of this?
The people who paid for the system, the Birmingham Council.
Lord Mayor purpose, you see, put this machine in the same. It's all made of idiots. Some of us we can't make this thing bloody work. What's the matter with it? I keep twisting the bloody thing. It keeps coming up Mitt Romney. I'm trying to vote for a Barack Obama.
Local councillor, you could be local councillor Mike Leddy.
I am. I admit it. And I've already got away with all. I've had been few kids. Got one of his spells.
And here he is. Here is Mike Leddy.
Go on, Ed. Where's Mike Leddy?
Looking unimpressed.
He's wearing a mask. Look, his head's 2 times the size it should be. He's not got ash dye, has he?
He told the Telegraph, "I'm a proud Brummer. Most people can understand me."
They haven't all got cunts.
I was
They've all
trying
turned
to
into
that, but he
Malcolm.
just kept saying, "Could you please repeat?"
Do you know, I don't think you're going to get the lead in Crossroads when it comes back.
The subject of speech.
Yes.
What have scientists discovered Koshik the elephant can do this week?
He can order marmalade in 15 different languages.
He can do it in one.
Is
No,
that
he can simulate human speech.
Another one. We had a whale last week
Yeah.
to do that.
Oh, they're such copycats. They watch the show, they think, oh, if the whale can do it, I can do it. He puts his trunk in his mouth and then blows the air in, and it makes a sort of echo chamber, and it makes a human voice.
Is that legal to put your trunk in your mouth and blow?
If I could do that, I'd never leave the house.
You couldn't pay people to do that.
No, you couldn't. I've tried.
He's an Indian elephant, and he's
Yes.
learned to speak Korean, apparently,
Wow.
and here he is. And that's Korean for good.
Yeah. He's
Apparently.
patronising his keeper
Yeah. Or
in a foreign language.
this is the new £11 million automated answering service at Birmingham City Council that can't understand the Birmingham accent. The system is actually installed in the rent arrears department. According to the Telegraph, it meant the council were able to cut the jobs of 55 call centre staff, who ironically are all now behind with their rent and have to speak to the... Which means at the end of the round, it's Harry and Paul with 3, Nigel and Ian with 2. Time now for the odd one out round, Paul and Harry. Your 4 are Vern Troyer, President William Howard Taft, Gordon Brown and Stuart Roger.
I have no idea. Any clues?
They all got stuck. Gordon Brown, he got stuck in number 10. For God, it took years to get him out.
They tried greasing him and everything. They couldn't get through the door.
Get him out.
They all got stuck
In lifts.
in the...
Bog.
Yes, bathroom.
Bathroom.
Apart from Stuart Roger, who
Yes.
deliberately hid in the toilet for an hour in order to heckle David Cameron.
Was David Cameron in the same toilet as him?
Next door.
Yeah. Bang on the keyboard.
Yeah.
What did he do when he finally emerged from the toilet?
Said, I'd give it a minute if I were you.
He burst into a room where Cameron was talking and he shouted,
Yeah.
no ifs, no buts, no public sector cuts. Spend an hour in the toilet, you think you'd come up with something better than that. We've got 100 hours community service heckling Michael McIntyre.
Tell us about William Taft then, President Taft. What did he do?
He was President of the United States, so have a quick guess what number he was.
He was 27. It's not right. Not right, is it? No.
Yeah, he's the 27th President of the United States. He once got himself stuck in the presidential bathtub. He was the heaviest ever president, weighing in at a whopping 21 stone. Does anyone know how he managed to get out of the tub?
He went on a diet for a year. And eventually walked out on his own.
He soaked himself up.
He was rescued by a plumber from Birmingham. And he was stuck in the bathroom.
6 men apparently dislodged him with a gallon of butter. Not to grease the sides, just to lure him out. Taft was a one-term president, and that term was fatso. This year, Vern Troyer got stuck in an aeroplane toilet, and Gordon Brown once locked himself in a toilet and had to be freed by his arch-nemesis, Tony Blair.
After a year.
According to Blair, what actually happened was Gordon left the room and didn't come back. I gave him 5 minutes and thought it might be a call of nature. Then 15 minutes, and I thought it still might be a call of nature. According to Campbell, Blair had even wondered if Brown had done a runner.
Leave it. Just walk away.
Nothing to see here.
Then the phone rang. Gordon left a message on the answering machine saying, Tony, it's Gordon here. Can you let me out of the toilet? Brown was stuck in the toilet for 15 minutes, an embarrassing episode. But on the plus side, that was when he first had a go at quantitative easing. Ian and Nigel, here are yours. Cyclops, Xi Jinping, Osama bin Laden, and Fred Flintstone.
I think this is about caves, because the Cyclops lived in a cave when Odysseus and co came in. Osama bin Laden lived in a cave. Fred Flintstone had a very nice cave with, you know, all the mod cons and everything in it. And the new leader of China doesn't live in a cave. Yet. That's not a great answer.
I reckon you're pretty good at this.
You've got a very low bar.
They've all lived in a cave, except for Fred Flintstone, who lived in a stone house with all mod cons. Where does Fred Flintstone's catchphrase "Yabba Dabba Doo" originally come from?
Bill Clinton.
This is a slogan from way back, not that far back.
A product slogan.
Thank you.
A product slogan.
Thank you.
Soap.
Closer.
Detergent.
Yeah.
Butter.
According to the internet,
Gallon of butter.
apparently it comes from a Brill Cream slogan from the 1950s. A little dabble do you. Talking of the Flintstones,
yes,
Fred and Wilma's private life expanded US social boundaries in the 60s. Why?
You can now sleep with cartoons.
They were the first couple to be shown in bed together on primetime TV.
Before that, they had to be in single beds next to each other. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, and Wilma was a crack whore. Osama bin Laden is reported to have lived in a cave in Afghanistan. What did we learn recently about his beard?
It was 15 very specially trained swallows.
He died it. That's absolutely right. He died it,
Yeah,
according to a member of the Navy SEALs, Mark Owen. What else was Mark surprised about after looking through Osama's belongings?
There was a box set of The Wire.
He was surprised by how tidily bin Laden kept his clothes.
Not all bad, then.
All of his T-shirts were neatly folded into squares, and his clothes were hung evenly spaced, along with his enemies. Cyclops, in Greek mythology...
Is that Cyclops? Why has he got 2 eyes?
I don't think he has he?
Ah, good. Okay. That would be a Biclops.
He lived in a cave, according to Homer's Odyssey, of course.
Yep.
So that's that. Xi Jinping, China's next leader, we can be fairly certain, once lived in a cave when his father was arrested during the Cultural Revolution. What will he get to control once he's running China?
He gets to control the world.
According to The Guardian, the world's largest armed forces...
And I think they're the biggest economy now, aren't they? They've just overtaken America in terms of...
That's fighting words, mister.
How did Xi Jinping once respond to foreign critics of China?
He made very tiny poodles impersonate his enemies by the way they walked into a room. And so his enemies would come into the room and they'd see this sort of special poodle had been sort of trained and take the piss out of him, basically. And they would lose confidence, lose faces. In China, if a dog imitates you, then that's very bad. you are ashamed.
You know the culture well.
I do, yeah. if you turn your back and Labrador's going like that, get out of politics.
They've all lived in a cave, except Fred Flintstone. After Odysseus' men sneak into the Cyclops' cave and steal his sheep, the giant eats 2 men after killing them by removing their brains. And that, according to the government's anti-burglar guidelines, is proportionate force. Which means, at the end of this round, it's Harry and Paul with 4, Nigel and Ian with 3.
No, it cannot be.
Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication the Society for Clay Pipe Research newsletter.
Fantastic. I get this every month.
And we start with only a few pipe makers were able to tear themselves away from the misery of what?
Self-abuse. It fits.
Pipe making.
Same thing.
Away from the misery of pipe making. This is from the Society for Clay Pipe Research newsletter, which covers topics like the economic conditions for pipe makers in early 19th century Holland. And it still achieves a bigger circulation than the UKIP newsletter. Next, why not use your baby to what?
Feed the poor.
It rhymes with that. Clean the floor. Is actually the answer.
Yeah, they don't do anything, children. Get
This
them
is an
working.
invention that uses your baby to clean floors. There's also a full-size version for husbands who come home drunk. Next, Prince Charles. I'm a what?
Oh, no, this is him using pigeon. I think it's I'm a #1 pickaninny belong Missy Queen. What he actually said.
Few sausages short of a Barbie. Prince Charles is on
They
tour
did say
down
that.
under. Whilst on walkabout, he wore a traditional Australian bushman's hat. It was a present from his sons. William donated the hat, and Harry provided all the corks. Next, pipe collector Bill Moore has decided to what?
Collect one more pipe.
Sell his collection.
Sell his pipe collection.
No!
According to the Society for Clay Pipe Research newsletter, Bill thinks his collection is worth £7,750. Wow, Bill, what have you been smoking? Next, taxpayers' £10,000 bill
Snake.
to stuff Haig's what?
Snake. It's definitely snake. He's got an antique snake and we've paid £10,000 to have it restuffed.
Snake
Snake.
is the correct answer.
Correct answer.
This
Well, I've been saying it. I've been saying nothing else but snake all night.
This is the 100-year-old anaconda in William Hague's department at the Foreign Office. A spokesman explained no significant maintenance has been carried out on him in the last 40 to 50 years, adding that the snake is in even worse condition. Next, aliens breach what?
BBC Health and Safety, basically. They weren't allowed to point a sort of radio transmitter into outer space in case we got a reply back from a nearby planet, another sort of planetary civilization of some kind. But if they replied back to us, that would be a health and safety form we'd have to fill out. So he wasn't allowed to do it.
Is the correct answer. Health and safety. As part of his BBC programme, Professor Brian Cox was investigating a newly discovered planet. Isolated, remote, and with a poisonous atmosphere, the BBC is going through a difficult period. Next, put that in your what?
Pipe, must be.
Hooray is the correct answer. The Society for Clay Pipe Research newsletter featured an alien in a crop circle smoking a pipe. A message to clay pipe smokers, you really ought to get out more, and a message to crop circle makers, you really ought to stay in more. And finally, offensive Morris dancers, what?
Revealed as Iran's secret weapon.
Told to move on by police.
Yeah, exactly.
The lead Morris man delivered his most energetic dance performance ever, seconds after being tasered. So the final scores are tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Ian and Nigel have 5. Harry and Paul have 7. Whoa! Just before we go, there's time for the caption competition. Ian and Nigel have this.
Ah, Lord Black, nice of you to come.
I've learned to speak to elephants.
And Paul and Harry get that.
David Cameron warns against gay backlash.
On which note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Nigel Farage, Paul Merton and Harry Shearer. And I leave you with the news that in Chicago, one man begins to regret answering yes when his wife asks, does my bum look big in this? On a tour of Papua New Guinea, Prince Charles finalises his evening plans with his most senior aide. And after his narrow victory, President Obama rings Mitt Romney to offer his heartfelt commiserations. Good night.
A first look at the latest instalment in the Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn Part 2, film 2012 returns next here on BBC One.